Welcome back to Sister Scoop, where we are covering the main 3 Marvel news topics for this week. And we're going to start with the first one, where Damson Idris will not confirm or deny any Black Panther rumors.
Interesting, because I think, the way that he is going about it, he's almost like, it feels like he's campaigning. Like, it sounds like he may be having these conversations, and this is obviously speculation, but it sounds like he may be having the conversations. He's not sure, but he's letting Marvel know on no uncertain terms that he wants to play T'Challa. I have a lot of complicated feelings, as anybody who has been following our show for any amount of time knows about this. I have no problem with him as an actor. It's not personal to him. It is about how I feel about recasting T'Challa. It's only been 5 years. I personally am not ready to move on. I have a lot of sadness still, and I also, there's the Shuri of it all, and like giving her flowers and her ability to really expand her character as the Black Panther. I don't know how you have a T'Challa Black Panther and a Shuri Black Panther existing at the same time. It's one mantle. So I have logistical and emotional qualms with a recasting to begin with, but I don't have a problem with him.
I'm gonna have to have a hot take here, and one that we have not agreed on, or we've agreed on in the past. You say only, and I say it's already. And I think, by the time this would even happen, it'd be what, 2027, 2028. I mean, I really do think, unless it's like Doomsday or Secret Wars related, but even then, end of 2026 and 2027. I do kind of just feel like we're reaching that point. And I know you don't like me saying this. I literally am reading your face right now.
I'm not ready. No,
I know.
Yeah.
I just think, and honestly, some of it is because from like a personal point of view, thinking about the fact that 2020 was 5 years ago, and just trying to wrap my brain around that fact alone, and that we have fully crossed the halfway point of 2025, so we are now also closer to 2026, and therefore closer to 2020 or 2030.
Stop talking.
And somebody said we're also now closer to 2050 than we were to 2000, which made me feel old as an 01 baby. But anyway,
stop talking.
Yeah, I think
you're stressing me out.
I think all of these things have made me really think about like what the future of the MCU is going to look like. And I do think, they've done what they've had to do. I think it wouldn't have been smart to do it even a year or 2 years ago when the second Black Panther is coming. But I do think we're reaching that threshold now where I don't think it would be as strange to do it. You did mention Shuri, and I don't want to override that. But I think you could still tell her story in some capacity before bringing this other character in. And if it's going to be done, or this other Black Panther, if it's especially going to be done through Secret Wars, I'm like, that's the best way to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think if I'm going to be really like self-introspective at the moment, I don't know that I'll ever be ready for recasting. So maybe me saying like, hey, it's too soon, I'm probably going to be saying that in 5 years. Like, that moment, like I literally remember the exact moment like that I found out that he died. I remember we were living at home,
like, sobbing in my bedroom.
I remember running up the stairs, falling because I was already sobbing. So like, imagine running while sobbing and then falling. It was just, there was a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I burst into her room. I don't even think you could understand me. I was hysterical.
And there was just something, like, what is going on?
There's just something about that moment that was like so visceral. And I don't know that I'm ever gonna be ready. So maybe it's time to rip the Band-Aid off. You're right. If we are going to bring in another T'Challa from a Shuri standpoint, it's got to be in Secret Wars, I think, because otherwise, where and how do you do it? And what are the mechanics there? So maybe I'll get there. I'm open to getting there. But right now, I like need to continue to work through my feelings, apparently.
Okay. Work through that in therapy.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next topic. Hercules might be getting his own project. I think I have mixed feelings about this. I think the part of me that's like, payoff for what you introduced in Thor 5 is like, yay. The other part of me is like, I don't really care. I know that sounds so bad, but like that's just when I think of the projects we could be kind of doing, whether it's a one-off or whatnot, like that's not really one that comes to mind. Like I'd still rather see the Mordo end credit scene paid off personally, but I don't know. I go 50-50.
I am excited because I think that Brett Goldstein, who they cast for this role, is a really good fit. Like he makes a lot of sense for me. Like visually, I haven't seen him in a ton of stuff, though. I know he tends to lean a little more comedic, like in Ted Lasso, for example. So I'd be curious to see him do something more dramatic.
Yeah.
Um, but I like the way that he really feels like he visually fits the role for me. So I would like to see him expand on that. The other thing that I thought was really interesting when I was reading articles about this, one article pointed out, there are these rumors about Thor not making it out of either Doomsday or Secret Wars. If that's
Right.
the case, Hercules could really step in that god role that's going to be vacated by Thor. So I think that could be really interesting. And I think there are some cool storylines that could be told and maybe take him onto the next level, make him a slightly bigger character and with more prominence. So I'm open to it. I feel like you didn't just pick a random guy and make this the start of his career. You picked someone who's established. Let's use him.
Yeah, I mean, that's some food for thought for sure of like where he could be used in the future. I think, honestly, I'll be honest, if I'm going to look inside of myself right now, I think Thor 5 being just such a nightmare has really just dampened anything that needs to come out of it. Like, I really
Thor
do
4.
think, oh, yeah, sorry.
I was like, how
Um,
have you seen Thor 5 already? That's wild.
I'm looking so far into myself. I just saw it.
Precognition unlocked.
Yeah, I saw all of it. Thor 4, yes, Love and Thunder. I think it was just such a crap show that like I really I think I just struggle with the thought of anything from that movie making it out of the movie. Like I really do.
Even Thor
So,
himself.
even Thor himself. I love you, Chris Hemsworth, and you know that, but I yeah, so maybe that's kind of my mixed feelings of like, should I care? Like I'm sure I would have if that movie was a lot better, if I'm being dead honest. So
That's super fair.
we'll have to see how that one plays out. Feeling wise, I'm sure I'll be a lot more excited about it when we have more word on it. So that's just how I feel at the time. And honestly, screw you, Love and Thunder, for making me feel that way. But anyway, moving on to our last topic. The Midnight Suns might be making some moves. Now, every once in a while, we get to have an update on this. And that's so exciting because we really want to see the Midnight Suns.
I think if there's any team up that we're most excited for, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to speak for both of us here. I think Young Avengers / Champions is like way up there. And then I think it's probably the Midnight Suns. I think they're totally different vibes for sure.
I'm Midnight Suns all the way, but I like we all know I like your like gray area villainy but good guy vibes. So
well, I think when you look at that roster and who the rumored characters are going to be, you've got the Moon Knights. They're going to potentially bring in Ghost Rider. We're talking about obviously Doctor Strange or Wong, Werewolf by
Blade.
Night. Yeah.
Whenever we get him.
Well, there's so much of that I feel like tied into this, right? Like that's such a part of the conversation. People are talking like, oh, is Blade going to come out first? He's going to get his intro.
Right.
Or is he going to be introduced, I'm trying to think who's a good example, Wanda style of like, here's a team up film where we already know, 70 to 80% of the characters. And then we bring in, or even the Thunderbolts, and then we bring in a new character or two who then becomes a favorite.
Right.
A little harder to do with a Blade, I think, because he has so many eyes on that particular project.
Yeah.
Obviously, people knew Sentry beforehand, but I think Blade, because of all of the swirl, it's got so much conversation around it. But I'm really excited by this update. I think I would die to have Gael Garcia Bernal in a Midnight Suns. I love that man. That man, my whole Spanish degree is encapsulated by Gael Garcia Bernal and his filmography. So that one has a special place in my heart, and I want them to bring him back desperately.
I'm just excited for them in general. I think they're so cool. And I do think they're one of those teams like any in the comics that have kind of a shifting roster, right?
Yep.
But like you have the ability, I think, with the characters we have to build a really solid one. And you did mention Ghost Rider, and it'd be remiss if I didn't mention there is rumor swirling that instead of Blade being the leader of the Midnight Suns, it could actually be Ghost Rider. I would actually really like that. I mean, I wouldn't mind Blade either, obviously, but I think that'd be a really interesting shift. That could be cool to see. I don't know how that would go down. Honestly, the Midnight Suns is like such a scary concept to me in its own way, because I'm like,
Yeah.
these people are just so not what we're used to. And like, I'm not
Yeah.
talking Thunderbolt style. I'm talking like Red Ledger's everything, like crazy. So like I'm a little scared, but like I kind of am like, I could see Ghost Rider being, you know, your main guy. I could actually kind of get really behind that.
I'm not opposed to it. I think where I'm starting to think about how that comes to life is we know that we have Blade on the slate. We have heard literally nothing about Ghost Rider. So that would kind of be interesting. Again, like, where are you introducing him? Are you introducing him in the team up, or are you introducing him in his own
Right.
property? But I think to what you were saying about them being such a like dark tonally film, because I think it's looking like it's going to be a film. I am so excited that they've been doing some really rated R stuff lately. Like,
Yeah.
Deadpool tonally is off, but rated R film did obviously exceptionally well. I think it was like the highest grossing R rated film of
saw
all
it
time.
Twice in theaters and paid
So
full price.
good.
Like I didn't even go on a cheap day.
But even like when you think about maybe more tonally aligned as like an Echo, right? Like that was rated TV MA, the TV equivalent sort of a rated R, and tonally
Daredevil.
also a little darker. So I think those, and we liked Echo, so like nobody say anything about that. But
we liked like 4 out of 6 of it.
well, we liked the grounded pieces of Echo,
Yes.
which is what would end up
when it went off kilter. We were like, what was that?
Yeah, so to me, like, the grounded pieces that I think fit the most R-rated stuff, I think is what they should translate into Midnight Suns. But yes,
Yeah.
you're right. I forgot. I truly, because I was so
like,
excited.
Hold on. Don't listen to that. And then you happen to listen to our Echo episodes and we're like, what did we just watch? So I just want to correct when it went off kilter, and you'll know what we mean.
Fair.
Yeah.
I was so excited for that show. I've chosen to believe that the last 2 episodes didn't happen, personally. It's just like, gone. Oh, sorry, got erased. Someone deleted the file.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Midnight Suns. Like I said, it's always good to me that we're getting these updates and we have a little bit of something moving consistently. That always means good things as far as I'm concerned. But that is it for this week's Sister Scoop. We will be back next week with 3 more Marvel with 3 we've talked too long. 3 new Marvel news topics. And on the podcast side, we are covering the second half of Ironheart. So if you haven't been watching that, make sure you go watch it and then watch our episode, because it will be a video episode. But we will see you guys next week. Bye.